In this video help, I'm going to explain the usage and access to the cashier management screens. There's a button found on both the inventory and the sales screen for that purpose. Let's go ahead and look at that. At the bottom of the screen, you're going to see the enter password first, or in some cases it may say add password, and then there will be a tech note that says this is a restricted screen and you must have the manager's login. Now, in order to get a manager's login, it has to be your account restrictions need to be a manager's login. If you don't have that, then you do not go to this screen. To run the actual screen, go ahead and click on this link here to go to the actual cashier's management. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, but before I do that, for example, I'll click and it'll say this. This screen is restricted to managers only, and if you do not have a manager's login, then click the cancel button to return to this screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause a second and add the password, and then I'm going to return. Thank you. Hold on. When I added the correct password, you'll be accessing this screen. This is the cashier management screen. In this screen, what you're doing is you're taking the information that was in the portal for the cashier itself that you're adding here, and then what it's going to do is when you actually collect money from the cash drawer, you're going to add that information from the cash drawer to here. Now, I'll explain, this may be one or more times that you'll take cash out of a cash drawer during the period of this person's session on the cash drawer. So what you want to do is note that this is always in the last entered first. So what'll happen, this 9:30 a.m. $959.50 was pulled from the cash drawer by Terry, and over here it lists the number of bills for each one of the for the cash drawer, and then the amount of change that may be pulled from the drawer during that cash collection. You enter that, and what happens is as you enter the numeric amount of dollars, this is not the dollar value, but the dollars themselves, so 123 ones were added. And on this next go around, 153 were added for a total of $276 worth of ones. So this is the count of how many, and this is the actual dollar value. This is the count sum for the amount of change, and then this is the total amount for this shift by this person that was added to the revenue for the sale. So what you're going to do now is the last thing is to go ahead and put the stop time in when the person's shift is over, and then add from the sales at the end of the day, the sales invoice total. It should match the sum minus the actual beginning till amount, in this case, which was $350. So you'll end up with the actual count of dollars collected, and then you can compare that, which $29.65.70 was the total collected. That includes the petty cash that was pulled from the drawer. The last entry that you would have in here would be balancing the drawer and reconciling it at the end of the shift for that person and putting in the end numbers, which would come to the top of the list at the last point. So say, for example, this person's shift was 2 o'clock, then the 2 o'clock collection would be the final collection, which would be added, and then it'd summarize the total plus all the cash change that was added, and then deduct the $350 that was initially put in the drawer. If you have any questions about this, go ahead and contact us. Now, what I'm going to do is show you the rest of the screens. This is the cash management list view, which lists the people who were actually cashiers for the day. And in this case, there was one for the 4th, one for the 12th, started at 7 and 8, and one was in store 1, was in store 2. This person stop time at the end of the shift was 8 to 12, and this person theoretically has not cashed out yet. So there should still be more. And then at the end of the shift, the summary, when you put it into that cash screen, would be in here. These should match basically the actual invoice number and the cash pulled from the drawer based on store 2 for this person's cashier shift. How do you know that's that person? Well, on the invoice, when the invoice is done, the person puts their salesperson's name on the individual transactions, which indicates that is their shift for that day, and it's actually time and date stamped, so you'll know what shift it was from. Let's go ahead now and take a look at the cash report. You can pick any one of these buttons on this side. Now remember, you can use the do find and the perform find to locate any day span or individual or store or whatever you want to do as far as mixing up the fields for a find. Let's go to the cash management report. It looks kind of confusing when you first look at it, but basically what happens is it shows at the top of the screen the date of the shift, the store name, and the person. And then you go down and here's the person and their shift for the day. They started at 7. They didn't stop yet, and they're in store 1. This would be the invoices that are counted after the shift. You'll see that there's the 350 starting balance, the count on this particular transaction, which was at the 7 o'clock, at the 9:30 collection time. And there was a sum of the collection of $959.50. And when you add the next part of this in, it's going to be the next shift collection. Once again, there was 350 in the cash drawer, and this time there's 153 $1 bills and 12 fives and so forth, and $103 and change that was pulled from the cash drawer. If you look at Terry picked it up at 11:30 on this shift, and she collected $2,006.20. Where up here it was $959.50. The sum of both of these together is $2965.70. The sum of the cash change was $189.70 based on 103 and 86.50. Then here's the summary for this particular shift for this person, which is the summary of all the cash and a sum down here at the balance, and then the total amount for that particular shift was taken out, which matches the sum over here for total collected. Now, the same thing applies when this person, if this was the end of their shift, that would have been the end of the cash being taken from the drawer based on the balance that was actually in the drawer at the final when the $350 was removed and the balance was shown. The next thing is, this is a single shift. Again, another person on the 8th, 12/8, store 2, and they completed the shift. They did one collection. The sum of the collection is down here, and it shows $21.46 was collected. Now, on this screen down here, this is the grand summary, the grand total summary for all the stuff that in the current selection. If you have not done a find to reduce the records, this would be the summary for all entries. Obviously, there would be a shift by day where you would do the end of the day shift and then collect the money and then reconcile it to the actual invoices to get the final count. Your cash drawer, if you took it by the day and all people and all that shift, the balance would be the total down here for $5,111.70, and that's based on the 2 collections that were made for this person and this person during this shift. Now, obviously, this was a different day, but I'm just trying to illustrate how it would summarize all the information at the bottom and the report totals with the grand total sum collected for all the records in selection. If you change the find, obviously all these figures would change, and then the actual records would change depending on how you set up the actual collections for that period. Just one final pass over this again. One of the first things you would do is do a find based on the actual date or the end of the shift. And the way to do that is I would just take a quick copy of the date for the sale date. I'd do a find. I'd paste it right back into the record, and then I would go ahead and perform the find. And as you can see now, what's happened is you only have John Smith for that session, and you can see the actual amount for his $2965.70. This is a way of proving what I just showed you. The last thing that would go in the record would go in the actual cash record, which is this cash management screen, where you would enter the amount of invoices that should match the $2965.70, which is minus the $350 that was in the cash drawer initially. Okay, if you have any questions, as always, go ahead and get in touch with us. I want to pass one thing on to you that happens on the server. I can run the report from here, and what it'll do is it'll look kind of odd. At the top of the screen, both on the server and on the desktop and on the iPad, if you click on the Found Set Records, there's a little green ball that you can click on. When you click on it, it resets the actual amount of data in the record so that the correct information is actually shown. Especially on the server, cloud server, you may run into a situation where it looks kind of odd and you may have to click a couple of times to get the record to show properly. Okay, thank you for taking this tour.